In this video we will create the Ewok village for our Star Wars Legion Endor project. Start with measuring the height for your platforms, on which you will build the hut. The length we chose is approximately 20 centimeters. For the width, you may want to take a model and make sure to fit two of them next to each other for a proper playfield. In the end, you will create bridges in between the trees, so we'll need a flat surface for that as well. Mark the trees at the same height as the previous platforms. Then, to create a spiral stair towards the platform, we use some steel wire to create the base shape. Start with a circle, then follow it downwards with enough height in between each full circle around the tree. You may want to check in between to make sure the height is enough for your models to fit through without getting stuck. One final check to make sure, and also note that in the end there will be an opening for the models to fit through. Once satisfied, you can mark the wire with a pencil for easier reference. Next, we will be using ordinary plain bamboo skewers for the flooring and stair. We measured the size of the base from a Star Wars miniature and used it as a reference for the minimal width. We chose to go with 6 centimeters for this platform. Of course, you can vary this for an interesting effect in between different trees and platforms. Line up the skewers and mark them at a 6 centimeter interval. You will be needing lots of smaller sticks, so mark plenty. Use a pair of pliers with a sharp cutting edge to cut each of the sticks. For a quicker progress, cut 2 or 3 at a time. And make sure to hold both ends, else they spring in all random directions. Repeat this process until you have a large amount. Check the marked line and look for the area where the spiral stair enters the platform. This might be a good starting point. Put a fair amount of PVA glue in a bowl. Next, we will need a small drill, roughly the same width as the skewers, or an awl, to create small holes in which to fixate the skewers. Drill until you're through the clay and the cardboard. You will know when you're through. Dip one end of the skewer in the glue and insert it into the hole. Sometimes this might prove difficult, but with some effort you will manage. Make sure the stick is lined out as straight as possible before continuing to the next one. Repeat this process with intervals of roughly 0.5 centimeters. This will form the base of the platform. Once satisfied with the base platform, you can drill holes all the way down the spiral line and continue on with inserting the sticks. It's quite a tedious job, but the end result will be worth it. Once satisfied with the base skeleton of the structure, it is time to fill the gaps. The skewer bits to fill the gaps won't enter the tree trunk, so they need to be a bit shorter than the 6 cm used before. Something like 5.5 cm will do. You can once again use PVA glue like we did for a neat result. However, it can become quite tedious when you add too much glue at once and the sticks might slide, so be sure to use small amounts. When the sticks don't fit, you can cut them to size on the spot. A quicker alternative to the PVA glue is to use a hot glue gun, which is used later in the video for other purposes. However, it tends to be a lot messier. Once the sticks start closing in on each other, due to the circular shape of the tree, you need to create wedged sticks, which tends to consume the most time in this project. Hold the stick above the place where it will go to see the type of wedge needed to be cut, and use a sharp hobby knife to cut and fit the spot. Once satisfied, glue it into place and continue these steps all along the tree. It's nice to be precise, however you don't have to be too exact about things. After all, it's made by furry little Ewoks, which aren't after perfection in their creation anyway. Plus, it will save you time. Repeat the previous steps until everything's done. The pieces you'll need become smaller and smaller, so you will end up with a very small wedge, like in this case. The final shape will look something like this. Of course, the platform isn't finished without adding a fence. We chose to make ours at a height of 3 centimeters. Like before, cut the skewers to the right size and add the sticks all the way down to the bottom of the stairway. In our video, we chose for a clean look by using PVA glue. However, in hindsight, I strongly recommend using a hot glue gun for this part, since it will be much easier and less time consuming. When creating these fences, keep in mind that you will add a bridge in between the trees later, so you need to keep a spot open. Our bridge is 6 centimeters in width so we kept a gap of 6 cm. Finally, it should look something like this. For some extra details, you may want to add some skewers on the bottom of the platform and staircase to create some struts. Cut the struts in the desired length with two 45-degree angles into them. Repeat this process until you have the desired amount of struts for the project. You might want to pre-paint the struts for a more clean finish, however, it's not necessary. Once done cutting, glue each piece into place. And continue following the spiral staircase. Next we will be cutting the top of the fences to the desired length. I prefer to place the fences a bit off to create that rough build look. Use super glue or a hot glue gun to glue the bits together. When you do use super glue, you may want to use an accelerator to immediately dry the glue. As shown here. You already saw a bridge before that we will use. We made this bridge out of a bamboo placemat bought at a dollar store. You can cut it to the desired length and width. However, keep in mind that some flimsy wire holds the bits together, so you will want to keep at least one of those wires, if not two, in each segment of the bridge. The easiest way to cut is with a pair of sharp scissors. Be careful when you cut it shorter than the original form, because you get some loose ends. Add some PVA glue to the end to prevent the ends from slipping, and thus undoing the whole form of the bridge. Next we use Mourn Van Brown spray from Citadel Miniatures, better known as Games Workshop, for all of our wooden parts. Cover the parts that were already painted with, for instance, a toilet roll, such as this one, so as to not contaminate it with paint. You can decide to paint the tree beforehand and protect it like we did, or paint it as a whole once you're completed. We used Agrex Earthshade from Citadel for some extra depth and shadows on all the wooden parts. Apply it thoroughly. Next we used 2/3 Mournfang Brown and 1/3 Baneblade Brown in a mix and dry brush all the wooden parts. Rhinox hide is used to create some more depth on the edges by dry brushing it onto the model. Equal parts of Mournfang brown, Skavenblight dinge and Nurgling green are used to create a highlight in the middle of the wood. By adding more Nurgling green to the mix, you create a natural highlight which fits the tree. This is once again used on the middle parts. Last but not least, we added a mixture of Baneblade brown and Mournfang brown for the sharpest highlight. For the end tips of all the sticks you can use Zendri dust, as this will make it spring out and look very good. Next up is the hut itself. Start by cutting the cardboard to the right size. In our case, we used around 11 cm in width and 4 cm in height. Cut the excess off. Mark the middle with an almond-shaped form and cut this out. Use a bit of clay to create a smooth door opening for the huts. Roll a small ball into a snake-like form. Add some glue to the edge and add the clay to the almond-shaped opening. Make sure not to touch the clay too much, as you will easily leave fingerprints on it. Use cut coconut fibers as filling for the outer wall. Add glue to the outer wall shape and stick fibers onto it. Any excess fibers can be cut with a pair of scissors. We then spray the wall and door with Mournfang brown. Dry fit the hut into place once the paint is dry, and when you're satisfied, glue it to the trunk of the tree with a hot glue gun. For the roof, you will want to start with a sort of ellipse shape like this and cut it. Dry fit it into place and cut any excess cardboard until you're happy with the fit. For your reference, I measured my roof and it's around 6 cm in height, and the width is around 13 cm. We used plain simple straw, the kind used for rabbit cages and other rodents, for the roof of the hut. Start off by cutting strings to smaller bits and glue them to the roof. Keep adding straws until the roof is fully covered. We chose to go with a light color and undercoated the roof with skeleton bone primer from the army painter. But you can also choose a darker variation and use Mournfang brown or leather brown primer. We then toned everything down with Agrex Earthshade. This takes a while to dry, so we continue with the hut. For the hut, we used Scrag Brown and Deathclaw Brown. Slightly brush the Scrag Brown onto the hut, like you would when dry brushing. However, due to the texture, you can't be too rough. Repeat this step with the Deathclaw Brown. Next, hot glue the roof to the hut and the trunk of the tree. To finish the roof, add some green Death World Forest to the roof by dry brushing. Last but not least, we added Baylor Brown as a final highlight. While still wet, you may want to add some fine turf flock to the roof in any desired color. Finally, it will look something like this.
Hey there, thanks for watching this video. We hope you liked it and be sure to subscribe if you did. Hit the notification bell to get updated and feel free to drop a comment below.